All right, guys, welcome back to the Hoop Portal. Arizona has just knocked off UConn in a great game in stores tonight. Really, I mean, UConn made it interesting there down at the end, but just at the end of it, Arizona was just too good. And I think this is where Arizona fans get in the comments, let us know what you're seeing, what you guys thought about tonight as well. I think the big point tonight, as we pull up these stats here, let's get us going. Huge win tonight for Arizona. They've clearly marked themselves now as one of the best teams in the country. Arizona with a huge upset of UConn in stores tonight. Really, really fun to watch. Koa Pete, 16 points, 12 rebounds tonight, 37 minutes. Braden Burry's 4 points, all 4 coming in the second half. His minutes were restricted due to some foul trouble early on. And again, it was the Jaden Bradley show. 21 points for Jaden Bradley, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. Played 35 minutes tonight, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And off the bench, they got 13 points. And Awaka actually did really well off the bench. 7 points in 14 minutes. And then Delhi was 6 points in 27 minutes. Not as good as his game against UCLA, but still really, really good. Really, really valuable minutes. Alex Caravan, 8 points for UConn. Jalen Stewart, 10. Eric Reeby, 15 points. Made 2 3-pointers tonight, which I don't think anybody was expecting to see. Silas Damari, 13 points. Solo ball, 14. And again, the name of the first half, which really, we're going to split this up into two. In the first half of the game, UConn struggled with foul trouble. Eric Reeby ended up fouling out, but in the first half, Solo Ball had 2, Silas Damari had 2, Eric Reeby had 2, Alex Caravan had 2. And there was a point where Silas and Solo were both out, and Hurley kind of rolled the dice and let Caravan stay in, afraid of picking up his third, but he didn't. So props to him for being able to do that. But UConn didn't really get much production off the bench tonight. 7 points in all, 3 from Jaden Ross, 2 from Karoma, 2 from Malachi Smith. And obviously for UConn, if you're looking at that situation, you're not wanting Karoma to be playing heavy minutes. And he played 12. Part of that is Terrace Reed was out tonight, which is part of the issue, right? If you're going to be in a situation where Terrace Reed is out, Mullins is out, you're going to have to call on guys that you normally wouldn't want to have to call on in this situation. Doug, comment, hope to see you in March, full strength. Yeah, I think this is clear. Like, UConn is going to get better. UConn had guys out, but they still clearly show that they have a certain level in which that they can play at, even with those guys. And I think they showed that championship pedigree. They were down 12 in the second half. They ended up taking the lead. So they ended up taking the lead in the second half of the game. But again, it was just, this needs to be really about Arizona tonight. And it was the Jaden Bradley show again. And if you watch Jaden Bradley against against UCLA early on in the a couple weeks ago, it was the same thing. A game that was starting to feel hectic, getting out of hand. It felt like UCLA might go on this run and get away with it. Jaden Bradley calmed the troops, kept everyone level, and just made play after play after play after play after play. I don't think he's getting enough love in the national conversation of how good of a point guard he really is. We hear about Braden Smith. We heard last night about fears at Michigan State, and all great point guards, absolutely. But Jaden Bradley is showing I am just in that. I'm right there in that conversation with those guys. And I might be better than Fears. I might be right up there with Braden Smith. And a 21-point showing tonight on 6 of 13 shooting, 8 of 9 from the free throw line is what you want to see. And in a team like Arizona, who has a really good mix of vet guys like Jaden Bradley, but also have these young, talented guys like Berries, I don't know how you pronounce it, and Koa Pete, it's a dangerous team. It's a dangerous team. They have a absolute score off the bench in Dell'Orso. And Delhi wasn't amazing tonight. But again, he's coming off the bench, and it's just a threat. It's a threat that you have to worry about if you're UConn, if you're Florida, if you're UCLA, if you're Alabama or Auburn when you play them in a couple weeks. Like, you have to be game planned and ready for this guy at all times. 6 points tonight, but sometimes just the threat of that is just as good as the actual scoring. And Koa Pete, I think, responded well. I think had a great game against Florida to open up the season and introduce the college basketball world to Koa Pete. 30-point game that night. Struggled a bit against UCLA, but tonight answered the bell. 16 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 5 offensive rebounds, and played 37 minutes. Amazing from a freshman. Champion Arizona, the real number 1 team. Hashtag Gatos, Locos forever, Holmes. Yeah, I mean, also Awaka, another great reserve as well. Yeah, Awaka was great. We just mentioned that at the very beginning of this. Awaka was fantastic. 7 points in 14 minutes off the bench from him is... Yeah, Lloyd will sign up for that every single time, right? You'll definitely take that in a game where your other bigs were still pretty solid. Let's see. Koa Pete, 7 of 14, no threes, 2 of 4 from the free throw line. He answered the bell. That UConn team, and if you watch UConn play BYU, you should see how physical that team is. Now, were there guys missing for UConn? Absolutely. And that does need to be said. And that does need to be talked about. But at the end of the day, it's like Koa Pete still showed up. He still showed like, I am a freshman that is ready for these moments. And now in 2 major games for them, double, really, really solid, combined 46 points against a good Florida team who might have the best backcourt in the country, and then a really good UConn team, even though they were down a couple guys. Francisco, this was a great game. The refs got involved too much on both sides. UConn is a great team. Go Wildcats and BTFD. Absolutely, I agree with you. Watching the first half, I mean, the things that UConn, some of those fouls, and I get, and if we talk about it, fouls are fouls. We can all agree on that. But at the same time, some of those fouls that they were calling on Arizona and UConn, a guy's got the rebound. There's a hand reaching in. It's not affecting the play. You don't need to call every single one of those fouls. And it made the game super choppy. And I think that's why in the first 10 to 15 minutes of that game, the scoring wasn't great. Both teams were really more worried about fouling more so than playing basketball. The offense had to catch up, and it did. And both halves were pretty similar. Arizona 35 in the first, 36 in the second. Connecticut 33 in the first, 34 in the second. So it basically stemmed out the exact same way. But I think the big thing that I wrote down when watching the game is when Arizona, the last 5 minutes of the first half, when Solo Ball picked up his second foul for UConn, and it was a savvy play by Bradley to jump towards the ball and get in his way and kind of sell it a little bit. But that's what good point guards do. That's what good basketball players do. And at that point, it was like, okay, now Arizona could really do some damage. And they didn't. It was a stalemate, 9-9 to end that first half of those last 5 minutes. But the first minutes of the second half, Arizona came out and they won that 12-5, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. And it was huge for them to be able to do that because UConn answered back and went on that run of their own in the second half. And with UConn doing that, had those runs not been set up by Arizona to come out to start those first 5 minutes, UConn could have been up 7 to 8 points, and maybe this is a different ball game. So in a game that's 4 points like this, every point matters. Every point is big. Those 7 points from a walk off the bench, huge. Delhi, even though he wasn't as great as he was against UCLA, 6 points added. And that shows you, if you look at UConn's bench, they got 7 points off the bench compared to 13 from Arizona. Free throws, 19 of 25 for Arizona, 9 of 18 for UConn. And that's a big thing that we always talk about on this channel. If you can make more free throws than the other team takes, you're going to set yourself up to be in a really good position to win that game. Because one, it means you're being aggressive and hunting for those, even though the refs weren't fantastic tonight. In theory, you're hunting for your shot, you're being aggressive, but then you're also defending without fouling. And Arizona, even with the refs, did better than UConn tonight defending guards and bigs without fouling. And it made a huge difference for them because now you're not having to play timid like UConn had to for a certain amount of time. And when you add all that together over the course of 40 minutes, every run matters, every bucket matters, every minute you can steal of saying, okay, UConn doesn't get to be as physical tonight because they're in foul trouble and we're not, so we're good. We can up our level of physicality. And you saw it. They won the rebounding battle 43-23. It's huge. And a big part of that is because you have a little bit more freedom to go after these offensive rebounds. You doubled up UConn in that stat, 13 offensive rebounds to 6. And a big part of that is your whole team is playing with foul trouble. You're big fouled out, Eric Reeby with 5 fouls. Damari had 4. And that's not something that UConn's usually, I mean, it's rare you're going to see UConn lose a rebound battle by 20. And it's just credit again to Arizona and showing how good they are. Getting some comments. UConn bullied BYU. Couldn't do that physically to Arizona. Champy, absolutely correct. We just talked about it. 43 rebounds to 23. UConn won the assists. And the turnover rate here, Arizona had 10 turnovers to UConn's 5. If you're getting doubled up in turnovers, which in theory this is the other way, if the other team has half the amount of turnovers you do, usually that's a recipe for some disaster. But when you win the rebounding battle by 20, and when you make more free throws than UConn was able to take, and you win the offensive rebounding battle by doubling them up, the second chance points, the points in the paint, all those things start to add up. And again, physically, Arizona was able to withstand that last little push and pop by UConn, which Reeby hit 2 threes. And again, like I was literally sitting there like and watching the game and just thinking, they're giving him like 20 feet on all these 3-point shots. And he finally makes one, and he finally makes another. And it's just like, man, you just kind of shake your head and just like, please don't let this be the reason Arizona loses tonight. And they held on and came up with it. So really good job by them. Francisco Awaka came up clutch with them 4 free throws. Yes, super big free throws as well. He went 5 of 6 tonight from the free throw line. 7 points, 7 boards for him in 14 minutes. But yeah, get in the comments. Anything else you guys want to bring up with this team? I think it's clear. I mean, I said last week that I thought Arizona should be the number 1 team in the country. Not that I'm saying necessarily that I think Arizona is better than Houston or that they're better than Purdue, but in the sense of the games that they have won up to this point, nobody can boast that resume like they're able to. And then by doing this tonight, it's not even a double down. Now you're tripling down on what you've already established as the toughest non-conference slate up to this point. You're 5-0 with 3 wins against top 15 teams. And one of those is the defending national champion. And the other is a program that's won 2 of the last national championships. And you went to Los Angeles and beat what I think is a really good UCLA team that's going to make some noise in the Big Ten. As far as Arizona looks, as we get into their schedule from here on out, playing Denver should be good. Norfolk State should be good. They've got Auburn and Alabama on a back-to-back. And you're thinking, even if they split those 2 games, after that, Abilene Christian, San Diego State, which could be a frisky Mountain West Conference team. Always got to respect them. But again, Arizona should be heavily favored. Bethune-Cookman should be a win. I know they took Auburn to overtime, but I really like Arizona way more than I like Auburn this year. And then South Dakota State, Utah, and that's where they start Big 12 play. And I think crazy thing now, and get in the comments, tell me what you guys think this stretch looks like for them. They have a stretch down the stretch of the regular season in Big 12 play where their schedule looks like they go at Kansas. So this is February 9th on. At Kansas versus Texas Tech versus BYU, at Houston, at Baylor, Kansas again, Iowa State, at Colorado, and then get into the Big 12 tournament. That is a brutal slate. But if you're a fan of Arizona and you're like, well, I could say that this slate was just as bad with Florida, UCLA, and UConn, a true road game, and look at how we've handled that. So I think you really got to like what you've seen out of Arizona if you're a fan. And I said this on a video last week too, where it was like they low-key have already gone on a Final Four run. You've played 2 kind of slouches, and we'll give you 1 first round. Let's say you guys are a 1 seed, which is where you would be at right now. Play a 16 seed in a Utah Tech or a Northern Arizona, and you've beaten a Florida, UCLA, and UConn. That's a march to a Final Four. And on top of it, one of those games was a true road game in stores tonight, and then the game in UCLA, neutral environment, but obviously it's still in Los Angeles. You've had to go win 3 tough games all outside the state of Arizona this year. So really, really impressive by Arizona. Clear number 1 team in the country they should be when we get to Monday. Don't play again for 5 days. They're not going to lose next week against Denver or Norfolk State. I love them in the Auburn game. I think Auburn is not quite the team that people thought it was going to be. That game's going to be in Tucson, which is great for Arizona fans. It's awesome watching your team play in these big games, but it's such a different feel where you're saying, hey, now we get to go watch you guys at home in the zoo. It's going to be a completely different feeling. And you're going to open up, you're going to have a huge game against Auburn, potentially as the number 1 team in the country in Tucson. And so I don't remember the last time they played a game in Tucson as the number 1 overall seed. I'm not an Arizona fan. I actually am an Oregon alum. So this isn't great for me to be able to get this out of my mouth saying how good Arizona looks this year, but I'm not a hater. And on this channel, we are neutral. Guys, also remember, if you are watching, please like, share the video, get in the comments, subscribe to the Hoop Portal. We're here for all college basketball things, not just one. Really appreciate any support you guys are able to throw this way. Francisco, Tommy Lloyd set this team up with this schedule for that March run. Absolutely. I think that's the big thing where it's like, and I have a couple friends who are Arizona alum and fans, and some people were killing this hire when they got a Mark Few assistant, but it's clearly working and he's clearly doing a fantastic job. And you see the similarities too between the styles. I think that Gonzaga team is really good this year, but besides the point, not getting into Gonzaga. This is about Arizona tonight. It's been a great hire. And I think watching them under Sean Miller, they were an amazing regular season team. They were a bit one-dimensional. Pac-12 wasn't always super tough, and I think it really hurt some of those teams come March Madness. And this team, I don't feel like, if I'm a fan of Arizona, I don't feel like I'm as worried about it getting to that point as maybe I was under Sean Miller. I think this is a great hire with Tommy Lloyd. Champy says, battle of the 2 best coaches in college basketball tonight. I don't know if I can throw Lloyd as the best coach in college basketball. I do have Hurley as number 1 in college basketball based on the fact that he has 2 national championships in the last 3 years, and their down year was losing to Florida by 7 in the second round of the tournament. But I really do think that, I mean, Tommy Lloyd's starting to establish himself. And if he can get a Final Four run, if there's a national champion, I mean, if you really look at it, there's only so many active coaches in college basketball right now that have a national championship. And so if you're able to crack into that group, and this Arizona team can clearly do that, then yeah, I mean, there's a conversation to be had at the end of the season about Tommy Lloyd being one of the best coaches in college basketball. I'd pump the brakes on it yet, saying he's top 2. But he's definitely making his way in there, and I really love what he's done with this program, with his team. And when you make those championship runs, and this kind of goes back to Miller, and this is not going to be some Sean Miller hate watch, but when you look at this UConn team versus this Arizona team versus those old Arizona teams, the one-dimensional versus now, this team can play fast, they can slow it down, they can go big, they can go small, they can be physical, they can out-finesse you, they have a point guard, they have shooting, they have scoring off the bench, they have bigs. They check every single box you want to see out of a team to make a national championship run. The defense is great. The offense is there. The pace is there. You have the ability of where if we have a guy in foul trouble or someone in our starting lineup, like in the game against UCLA, the 2 freshmen don't look too great. Okay, Deli, hey, it's your time. I got you, coach. Here's 20. And that's a really dangerous thing because you so many players you have to worry about with this Arizona group. Some are scores, some are physical, some are really smart, like Jaden Bradley. Jaden Bradley looks like one of the best point guards in the country. Please, can the media start giving this kid his flowers? I love watching him play. He's an amazing point guard, and he's just savvy. He's so savvy. That foul that he got again on solo ball at the end of the half, that whole thing was just on him. He saw Solo jumping and is like, I'm going to jump it. I'm going to get in the way, and I'm just going to take this foul, take this hit. And he's laughing after it because he knows exactly what he did. So really, really good. Francisco says, haha, them old school Pac-12 rival with them Ducks are classic. They were. And and give us our credit. We went belt to behind on you guys for a few games there. And I remember saying this isn't even a rivalry. We beat you every year. But they were classic showdowns. And I remember being up in Eugene for the game where we won by like 40. I think it was like, I want to say that we shot like 50% as a team from 3. One of the craziest games I've ever seen. But no, yeah, you're right. Those matchups were absolutely amazing. Francisco Bradley is the leader as well. Yeah, he is. He's the clear leader of that group. There's no question about who is the what we would say alpha of that group from a college basketball standpoint. Is he going to be the best NBA player of this group? No. Is he the best college basketball player in this group? Probably could be Koa Pete by the time we're at the end of it. But again, like you said, he's a clear leader. He's a clear alpha. He's an extension of Tommy Lloyd on the court. And when you add all those things together, it's a really, really dangerous team. So really love what I saw out of Arizona tonight, what I've seen out of them all year long. I think it's going to be a sense of, we don't hear about them a lot until they get to the Auburn game. And if you're a fan, you don't want to, because if they're in the news really after this weekend, it's going to be because they lost a game that they shouldn't lose. So really good by them, though. Really loved this game. It was really fun to watch. I love that they faced a little bit of adversity again on the road and still capitalized and answered it and won it. Because I thought when UConn went up, I was like, okay, I have to throw all the notes I just wrote for Arizona out the window. What am I going to say about UConn now? And they kept with it. They stuck with it. They stayed true. They did it against UCLA. They did it against Florida. I don't really have a lot of questions with this group. I think we can look at a lot of teams around the country and say, that's a question mark. That's a question mark. That's a question mark. This team, I don't really have one. I don't. And if Bryce ever gets some playing time, that would be pretty sick. Get LeBron James kid a national championship. Please do it. You guys have the opportunity to do something amazing. Francisco, he won't get his flowers. The East Coast bias is real. It is real. It is real. And I live on the East Coast now, right? Like I'm in North Carolina now, so I get it. I know what it's like. Nobody gives the Pac-12. Nobody gave Pac-12 teams love ever. Even when Oregon made the Final Four that year, it was always about Kansas. It's about North Carolina. It's about Duke, and it's still like that. But on this channel, the West Coast teams get some love. The teams in the Southwest absolutely get some love. I know it's better for Arizona to be in the Big 12. It's a huge difference. It makes a lot of sense. Same with Oregon going to the Big 10. We miss our Pac-12 days. That's why I love that Arizona-UCLA game. The nod to Bill Walton, the tie-dye in the shirts, back in LA, Conference of Championships, Conference of Champions was absolutely amazing. Again, guys, please like, share the video, subscribe, enter your name in the portal. We'll be here all season long. If you're an Arizona fan, congrats. Enjoy the win. Enjoy the #1 ranking coming next week. You guys are legit Final Four contenders. And with that, makes you legit national title contenders. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining the Hoop Portal. We'll see you guys on the next one.